Haven't seen each other in a while, have
No,
we?
it's been a pretty good while, I guess, since I was involved with Harlinsdale.
When did the operation move from here? We're at Harlinsdale Farm in Franklin, Tennessee. Your family has worked in arrangement with the city, and they've preserved, for perpetuity, I presume, the ambiance of 200 acres here in Franklin, which is the jewel of Middle Tennessee.
Right.
Tell me a little bit about when the operation actually ceased here, as far as the breeding the mares.
It was about 10 years ago. The city approached us to buy the property, and my father, we had another piece of property in College Grove, and we built a barn which is almost similar to this one, a replica of. And Rocky Jones, manager there, is still a manager there. And we don't have as many horses as we used to have, but we have quite a few.
So you've carried it. You and obviously your dad's Bill. Your grandfather was W.W. Harlin, Sr.
Right.
He went by
Wirt.
Yes. And one time when I was up here in the 80s, you took me over and met your grandfather.
Right. I guess at that time he was getting sort of feeble, and he was up there at Miles Manor at the house behind us. And yeah, you got a chance to meet him. Now, Harlan Hayes, you knew him too, didn't you?
He was your grandfather's nephew?
Yes, he was. That's what this farm was really named after. It was Harlinsdale. And it was Harlan Hayes, who was his nephew, came from Gamaliel, Kentucky. And he and my grandfather started this farm down here. It used to be part of the factory up there, Allen Stove Works.
Haven't I heard, or if I got this right, that your daddy was about 10 years old when he went to the Breeders Association founding meeting in Lewisburg?
1935.
All right.
And he rode with my grandfather, and he said it started in a courthouse. And he said it's still in the courthouse. But
well, you know, Clay, it was in the courthouse as of last Tuesday because we had a hearing up there before the federal magistrate judge on the issue of First Amendment rights in Columbia, Tennessee. And that shows 66 years old, which is not as old as the Breeders Association. But anyway, your daddy was with it all his life. He was here when this barn was built, is that correct?
That's correct. This barn was built, well, actually he was at sea. He was in the Navy, but it was built in 1941. The day after Pearl Harbor. There's something in the cement that shows the date the foundation was laid.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
All right, so the natural bred Tennessee walking horse, the saddle horse, is the way the Breeders Association started. Is that correct, in 35?
Yeah.
There was no big lick horse.
There was no, well, there wasn't a big lick horse till probably 1953.
Sure.
Or talk of the town.
Okay, so your daddy had a partner, his brother. Your grandfather had a partner, his brother.
Alex Harlin.
And they established this farm
Yes,
for the
which
purpose of
went all the
breeding.
way to the river, by the way. It was more of it then than there was even here.
But it was a breeding operation primarily?
That and Hereford cattle.
Okay.
And the two combined, the Hereford cattle probably was the biggest thing they started out with. The walking horse was just starting. And so they did have some, my father and his brothers rode gaited horses too.
The first Tennessee Walking Horse National Celebration was 1939.
Okay.
Breeders Association was founded about 1935. Your daddy was born about 25, is that correct? Or 26?
24.
24.
24.
All right. So he was here when the barn was built, and then they got into the breeding business. And what was the first name stallion that they had here?
No Limit Allen.
We were talking about the stallions that have stood here at this farm and the Breeders Association and your family's involvement in it. When did Midnight Sun show up here? A ballpark.
Oh, probably early 40s. I mean, probably about the time that this barn was being built. And he was just a young 2 or 3 year old kind of gangling horse that they bought, and saw some promise in him. I think Winston Weiser was the one that started him.
When did you start working here at the farm?
Oh man, I was 11 years old. You know, that was quite a long time ago. It was in the 60s.
Clay, let's lay it on the table. You're 64 and I'm 71.
Yeah,
okay?
it was in the 60s. Midnight Sun was still alive. And
you remember him? You remember him being ridden?
He was old then.
Okay.
They didn't ride him. They would lunge him. But they had Sons of Light was here. And
Sons of Light was the 1963 World Grand
Right,
Champion.
and so it was in the 60s there. I can remember even as a child though, going in the stall with Midnight Sun, and he was so gentle. He would not bother you. You could walk under him, you could walk around him. He was just a big, lovable horse, but just such a natural horse.
You have to tell me your date of birth. I can't add and subtract.
Well,
What year?
1953.
Okay, 53. So you started working out here when you were about 10 years old, more or less.
Yeah.
And then you worked every summer and probably after school some, huh?
Willingly and unwillingly. Yes. Yes. I mean, it was like all the family members that we've had in some way or some form or some fashion have spent time here. And it was really hard when we sold it because there are a lot of memories with the children, grandchildren, and
so you worked on through your teenage years. You met the friends that you have, lifelong friends, John Hafner,
yeah,
Dan Ford,
Rocky Jones,
Rocky.
Rocky and I have just about grown up together since he was 16 years old.
And Rocky's been with your daddy and your family
since he was 16 years old. He'll be 63 coming up, so in September.
All right. So you really, when you went to college at
David Lipscomb.
David Lipscomb, and then you came back, and when did you go full-time here with the farm?
I did after graduation. I went full-time here for a period of 2-3 years, and then like most ambitious young men, I thought I wanted to try some other things, and I did. Went into real estate, and then from there I came back here for an extended period of time till in 1988 they shut the USDA came in and kind of shut the business down.
This was in Decatur, Alabama.
Yeah.
And at the trainer shop.
Not just here, but everywhere. I mean,
well, let's stop right there a minute. You and I met about 82.
That's right.
And what were your capacity here at the farm in about 81 or 82?
Well, I was, I was just an employee along with the rest. I didn't become a manager of this farm till sometime after that. But
about when did you become the manager, ballpark?
Well, it was probably in the early 90s.
Okay.
And after Harlan Hayes was here for quite a while, and then of course Rocky, it in all practical purposes has been the manager after him, and I just assisted him, and we worked together.
You're the liaison between Rocky and your dad. Y'all all worked as a team.
Oh, we had the best of teams, and we had quite an operation. We could have somewhere between 300 and 400 mares coming through here every year to breed. We had a very big operation.
And this was before ships. Artificial insemination.
Yes, it was before ship semen, and we would have somewhere, we've had as many as 72 yearlings a summer, but averaged about 55 head a summer to break, and so you had that, plus your hay and everything else you did.
So people would come from all over the United States here for 10 days in August to see your yearlings, come to your farm, and then go have an opportunity to purchase them over at Mr. Charlie Bobo's at Unionville outside Shelbyville.
Yeah, before then we had the sale right here.
I see. I wasn't around for that.
No, you weren't here then, but it was right over there in that field.
But you had Pride of Midnight, and then after he died, you had stallions bringing on behind him Pride's Hallelujah, Pride's Gold Coin, Pride's Genius,
Dark Spirit,
Pride's Dark Spirit,
Motown Magic.
Right, and a lot of them were the Pride bloodline.
Yes.
A lot of Sons Delight. You said Sons Delight at one time, and so it was booming. It was a lot of activity in the horse business, and the Big Lick was where the money was, where the activity was. But there's a problem with the Big Lick, and it takes soaring to produce it. It's been established by...
It's a response to pain.
Yes, exactly. And so I was in it, you were in it, we were in it. John Hafner's told me, his MTSU horse science professor, equine vet, native Tennessean, he said, Clint, it was fun, but it wasn't worth it. That's what Johnny has told me. I used to raise colts, and we did halter classes, and I would get out there and work with you guys when you sold your colts. I'd bring mine up from Mississippi, and we'd all get out there to sweat together.
And we had a good time.
We had a great time, and we had a bond there.
Swap stories and things. Yeah, it was just so many.
Going until today. Something went off the rails about 2000 when you made a comment, I think, with regard to...
It was in 98.
I'll let you tell it. In 98. Well, tell it in your own words what happened.
Well, I was encouraged to get involved with the Breeders' Association.
Correct.
I was about the age to be involved in the Breeders' Association. My father encouraged me.
You're in your middle 30s.
Yes.
Okay.
And so, pushing 40. And so I got involved with that, and was in the breeder side of it. Never got involved with the rest of it, but we did a lot of things like the parentage verification and through color verification. Yeah, and also shipping of semen. And so those things...
But I want to cut to the chase. I want to know what happened.
Well, what happened was, eventually I became the executive vice president of the Breeders' Association. And at that point, I had kind of come to the conclusion, just working here in this business, we had reached a plateau. And there was one thing, we had grown the membership of the Breeders' Association, just putting in some, I call them very honest practices with registrations. But the one thing we had never tackled was the soaring issue.
The infliction of pain upon the horses to get them to do the big lick.
We could not get country music stars. We couldn't get anybody to be our champion, you know, for our horse shows.
Money, nothing would move them.
No, because of the image, and it was. And you know, exposure breeds tolerance to anything, and I'd been in it all my life, but I came to the conclusion just through listening to grooms who worked with trainers, to veterinarians, to different ones, that we got a problem. And it was the level of activity with the big lick got just more extreme.
So when did it hit the fan? What happened?
Well,
with you personally?
Me personally, the breeders, the Trainer Association boycotted their own show, just, you know, the fun show, not trainer show, excuse me, in March.
Yes.
And
because they were cracking down on soaring.
USDA showed up big time, and they were, you know, they shut their own show down, which was insane. You're just raising a red flag there. I'm guilty.
Right.
And so they called they were calling around trying to get some opinions from people involved in leadership, and they couldn't get a hold of the president of the Breeders' Association. They were going to do an expose.
Who was the president? Do you remember?
It was Charles Glegren.
Charles Glegren, down at Fayetteville.
Fayetteville, friend of mine.
Banker, nice guy.
Yeah, nice guy.
Showed colts with me and you.
No, and but Charles and I were friends.
No, he did show colts with me and you.
But they couldn't get a hold of Charles,
Yeah,
and they did reach me at my home, and they were starting to ask me a lot of difficult questions. And it's funny, I was reading the book of Esther at the time, sitting on my back deck with, you know, where the Lord says, if, you know, she was afraid that she was going to die because of her involvement trying to save her own people, and she was afraid that if she did that they would kill her, the king would kill her. And you know, her uncle told her, said, you know, if you don't do it, then the Lord will raise up somebody else that will. But you've been given this opportunity at this time to do what you need to do. And as soon as that happened, I'm telling you, I marked it in my Bible. I got a call from the press, and I knew, beyond a shadow of a doubt, I could not lie to him. And he started asking me some questions about my family, our involvement in the big lick, and I said, what do you want to know? And he said, I just want to know about soaring and what it is that's causing this industry to be in such a paralyzed state right now. And so I began to tell him, you know, I said, the problem is it's just kind of a maddening cycle. You know, it's kind of like NASCAR. You have one guy that wins because he cheats.
And soaring is the cheating.
It's cheating, yeah. And so another guy's got to another trainer has to do what he does, find out what he does, or that owner's going to move his horse. And most owners were clueless. They kind of keep them in the dark. Some of them knew. But, you know, they had bought the hook, line, and sinker, the Kool-Aid, and drank it. You know, we were not inflicting pain. Your horse was not sore. And
so this got in the newspaper.
This got in the newspaper, and it did. And that was Easter. That was my birthday in '98, April 13th. I think that's the date. And they came out and had on the headlines, you know, horseman. Stands out about soaring. I can't remember the exact title.
This is in the Tennessean newspaper.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, in about 3 weeks' time, I know because I talked to one of the stallion owners who told me that if I didn't recant it, that the trainers kind of not officially but unofficially had said nobody's to breed or have anything to do with Harlinsdale.
In other words, it was an established order. And the word had gone out to cut you guys off, put you out of business in just frank terms. I mean, they weren't going to do business with you if you didn't go back on what I'd said. You're a man of principle and the Lord. Yeah. And this is your strong conviction.
And that was the main reason I could not deny it anymore. And if you asked me directly, I'd always tell you. But here I was facing a newspaper article, you know, that.
You were going to tell the same thing regardless. I mean, you just were honest.
You can't be any other way. That's the way I was raised. But anyway, in 3 weeks' time, and even my father remembered not too long ago, one owner coming and standing in the middle of the hallway saying, if you don't recant, I'm going to load my horse.
This is a stallion.
A stallion. He was a world champion and breeding a lot of mares. And I said, I can't. And he loaded, and he had some other expletives to say, but he loaded his horse, and it was really embarrassing. And it was very hard. My father said, I don't see how you took that. And I said, well, it wasn't easy. He said, you helped him load his horse. You wrapped his legs, you cleaned him off, you put him on his truck, and you thanked him. And I said, well, I don't know what else I could have done. Later, you know, that person has probably changed his mind about things. But not only him, we lost everything. Every horse that was of value, that was bringing money in.
So you've been in business about 60 years.
Yeah.
And let me say something. I came in this as a total stranger. Y'all made it worth doing. And it's one of the growth experiences of my life, one of the things I enjoyed the most. And so here we are.
Yeah.
And 60 years in business, treating people like they'd want to be treated, and this happens.
Yeah.
So then how did it go?
Well, I hung on for about 1.5 years. It was probably one of the worst periods of my life. I had, you know, nobody would really have anything to do with you anymore. And it got very, you know, you go to horse shows in different places, but you were the elephant in the room.
You've been ostracized.
I've been
You were
ostracized.
shunned.
I was shunned. And so it was very difficult for me. And
These were people that you knew personally. You've done a lot of business,
oh yeah.
favors,
Yeah.
personal friendships,
Yeah,
the children.
friendships. And I don't, you know, I came by it slow, and I don't think, you know, I'm not trying to be self-righteous here. I mean, a lot of times you know, you have epiphanies about things you're doing that may be wrong, and you change your ways. But you know, I still like these people. I still consider them my friends. I never attacked anybody personally. I never did say a name and come out against somebody. I came out against an issue.
You have to leave the business.
I had to leave the business. I couldn't stay here for it to stay in business. And they continued on. We got Jens Major General after that, came back here to breed. We had a few of our own young horses. One of them raised, went on to produce a champion, but it never was the same and as we had before. But I left and went back into a business that we had up in Tullahoma, industrial laundry business. Went there. We sold it in about 2006.
Okay, so for
Yeah.
about 20-year period, here
Yeah.
we are now. And you, Daddy, said it was going to start in the courthouse, and it's probably still there.
Yeah.
Clay, we were in the courthouse in Nashville last past Tuesday.
I saw that.
Unfortunately, as a man I like a lot, Sheriff Bucky Rowland, he's a heck of a nice fella, but he did something that in this country, and you have a son serving as a major in the United States Marine Corps. Once upon a time, I put on the uniform of my country. And when you go to a public park, you should not have somebody come down and tell you to turn off a video camera.
No.
And that's what we were doing, and that's what the sheriff did. And unfortunately, I decided to take a stand just like you did. Mm-hmm. I have a law school education. I'm not actively practicing. John Grisham and I in this exclusive club, we're both inactive Mississippi lawyers. He's got doing more than I am, but nevertheless, I believe in what we're doing. And we took a stand in the court ordered that no one interfere with us, and we've done this for 2 nights and no one's interfered with us. We could talk for a long time. I'm with the Citizens Campaign Against Big Lick Animal Cruelty. We have had 100,000 signatures, and we went before the White House on March the 29th, representing about 300,000 or 400,000 people that have signed change.org petitions. We held a press conference in the National Press Club. We went to see Congressman Ted Yoho from Florida, large animal veterinarian, who is the sponsor of the PAST Act to remove the pads and chains. Also, we have supported the business about the regulation, which unfortunately did not make it, which would have removed the pads and chains. There have been about 10 people that we have recognized so far, maybe 11, to receive an award. And today, on behalf of all these people, I want to present you an award. It's the CCABLAC Profile and Courage Award. John Kennedy's birthday would have been about 100 years old recently. He wrote Profiles in Courage. He went and identified all the different people that took stands. It was unpopular at the time, but it was a profile in courage. It gives me a great deal of personal pleasure and satisfaction to present you this trophy.
Thank you.
This
Clay.
is a natural Tennessee walking horse. This is a non-built up horse, much like Midnight Sun and Pride of Midnight, I would guess. This is a horse that's got everything you want. This is what they can do if they only will.
Yes.
And hopefully they will. Now, you've heard me
Thank
talk
you.
a little bit. You're welcome, and we're so happy for you to have that. Oh yes, and we thank you being willing to come here today and talk and go, tell us the story, because people follow this all over the world. and I'm talking with my hands now, and I said,
Okay.
but let me put my hands back. They follow this all over the world, and we're winning. When they're not having anybody come up to the Columbia Horse Show this week. We're going to go again tonight. We'll see what happens. It's been peaceful. We want it to be that way. We're just First Amendment. That's what the Constitution is about. What would you like to say?
Well, you know, this is quite an honor to receive this, and I thank you. But do you know that I keep thinking there were so many people before me who paid a lot of prices, you know, for horses and losing, being blackballed and not being able to go to horse shows, and because they came out strong against soaring, and they're gone. I mean, the highway of history of the walking horse industry or business is littered with people who stood up and didn't get recognized. And I, you know, kind of for their sake, I stand here. I'm on their shoulders. But my grandfather was one. There was other people who would talk about, you know, if we just didn't have this, what this breed could be.
Oh, no question.
And I don't know if, you know, our business will survive the comeback, but I think in time it could be probably the #1 horse breed for just people to have fun, like here at this park, and just ride around and just enjoy.
Horse.
Yeah, America's horse. And so I'm hoping that people like yourself and those who put the countless hours and time and sacrifice into this will eventually, it'll come back. Because really, at that time when I came out against a horse soaring, at that time it was because I told them, I said, we are only holding ourselves back. If we do it now, if we admit our wrongs, if
20 years ago.
20 years ago, if we change the way we're doing things, this thing could be bigger than the quarter horse industry. It could be huge. And to find the versatility of these animals, we'd never tapped it.
Nobody has a clue, do they?
No, because we've kept it pinned down.
You and I have worked with these horses. You and I have lunged them.
Oh.
We know what these horses are.
Let me tell you, we pulled logs out of the woods with them. You know,
Correct.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, we've done everything. I mean, they're wonderful and they're gentle. They're a kind breed.
And they could go to the show ring if you soared them, inflicted pain upon them. Not every horse can be a big lick horse. You and I know that.
No, but you know, it just breaks my heart that it's still going on, and there's still just enough of a remnant of this scourge going on that keeps the black eye on us. And until that's gone,
Clay, let me share something with you. The Mississippi Charity Horse Show, my daddy was the executive manager of it in the early 50s.
yeah,
Executive secretary. I went to that show before they started soaring. I was a little boy. I remember things as a
what
little
year was
boy.
this?
Sir?
What year?
Well, I was born in 46, and this is 53, 54.
Okay.
In those early years. And the
That's
horses
before
would come
soaring
down.
took off.
Right, exactly. And they would perform at the Mississippi State Fairgrounds under the old grandstand, a lot like the one at Gallatin that you and I have been to many times.
Right.
I've seen those horses. It wasn't always this way in my lifetime. Hopefully in my lifetime, whatever my lifetime is, it'll be that way again. And then it's going to take a while, but it can come back. Your daddy addressed that as much in his comments 2 or 3 years ago when he said, this, unfortunately, Tennessee's got the reputation of a horse abuse state, but the horse, it can take a while, but it will come back. And he knows. He was there when it started. Your daddy's a wise man. He knows. And you had a horse at one time named the Wise Man, correct?
Yes, we did.
Okay, I remember.
Yeah.
I think I was holding the dam of the Wise Men one day without any authorization, and Bill got a little excited about it. Y'all put up with me a lot around here.
Oh, my.
But in any event, I think we're on the right track. What I was saying is the Mississippi Charity Horse Show is no longer in existence. It went out. We've just come from Panama City Beach, where the people rose up and they didn't pay $25,000 to the horse show organizer. This is our 3rd year at Columbia. The first year, a trainer drove a truck at one of the ladies on the side of the road. They said, we will never indict him. I didn't leave there for 6 weeks. We had a video. They indicted him, they convicted him. We are winning this battle. We're going to win the battle. You stay strong.
Yeah.
Everybody's in it, and we appreciate your
Thank you, Clint.
contribution.
I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.